Hey everybody, welcome back to the Horror Syndicate. This is Ray Zor, and this is the Horror Movie Massacre show that we do. Used to do every Wednesday night, but lately I can't seem to get my shit together. So we do it whenever I can. But hopefully, very soon we'll be getting back to every Wednesday night as usual. Things are about to change in the Razor household. I don't know what the fingers are for. Anyway, actually, I do know what fingers are for. If the ladies are around, if you know what I mean. Tonight we are talking about Hellraiser 3 Hell on Earth. This one is the very first one I ever saw way back in, I think it was on cable. I think it was 1993. I always kind of had my reservations about watching the first Hellraiser movie, and it kept me. Let's just say it took me a long time to get to watch one of them, and then I saw this one, had a lot of fun with it, and it's so much different from the first two movies. Quite the departure, in fact. So we'll get Seth in here, and we'll talk about Pinhead's movie. Is essentially what this is, because this is more of a Pinhead movie. And yeah, let's get Seth in here and see what he has to say about it. Seth, how's it
What's
going,
up?
man?
It is going. How are you?
Eh, we'll talk about that later. How are you?
Not too bad.
Good.
Surviving.
Seth was making me jealous. He's got some new comic books that are old comic books, actually, but new versions. He was showing me before the show. So we've discussed Hellraiser and Hellraiser 2, and now we're on to Hellraiser 3, which I know is not top tier, uh, according to most people. But actually, wait till I show you our audience score because it blew my mind when I saw it. I was like, people like this movie more than I think we might expect.
Oh,
Give me
they
some
do.
of your, huh? What's that?
I said, oh, they do. I mean, this one's fairly popular.
Which surprises me, to be honest. I mean, not because I don't like it, because you know I like this one,
Yeah.
and yeah, it's not that I don't like it. It's just I know compared to the other movies, this one just doesn't stack up to the first two movies almost at all. Not
Yeah.
to say that it doesn't have strong points, because there are some strong points in this movie. But overall, what are some of your uh, assessments of this movie? Why does it rank where it ranks for you versus the first two?
Well, this is one that I've always been mixed on, um, because there are good elements to it. And like you mentioned before, this is totally Doug's movie. Like he shines in this movie. He is
Hmm.
absolutely fantastic, and there's a lot of good stuff. There's a lot of stuff in it that I like, which we'll talk about throughout this show tonight. But then there's other things that just don't work for me, and I think it's mainly with it being a film that sort of abandons what Hellraiser is supposed to be, and it's trying to take these characters in this world and make them icons, slasher icons, because that was the thing, which it doesn't really fit. And there's a lot of things in this movie that just don't make sense with stuff uh, that we got from the first two films. Like, okay, so Pinhead can all of a sudden just make Cenobites just like that, then that was never really a thing before. Yeah, there's just a lot of stuff in it that I don't like. I think overall, I think it starts off fairly well. Uh, Doug Bradley has a really good performance in it. I do like the lead character, Joey Summerskill.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, but it's just like it's a mixed bag for me. I think I've come around on this quite a bit over the years. It's just me personally. I I understand where a lot of people do like it, and a lot of people do want to see more of the Cenobites, but uh, for me, I just kind of like more of the world itself, where the Cenobites are not front and center, where the the Hellraiser, the Hellbound Heart, if you will, is the person driving the story, and the
Hmm.
Cenobites are just the consequence. But a lot of
Yeah.
people will disagree with me on that. A lot of people want to see the Cenobites. They want to see more Cenobites. I know after part four, when they started getting back to the basics with the direct to video stuff being where you barely had any Cenobites in it at all. A lot of people hate that stuff. So I'm a kind of, I would say it's kind of a unpopular opinion, I guess, my take on it. But well, we'll get into the pros and cons throughout tonight.
Yeah. Before we do that, I'd like to take a moment, if you don't mind, to share something. A good, old co-host of the Horror Syndicate lives. Mike Lombardo has got a new movie project happening, and I haven't even said anything about doing this yet. We posted an article about it kind of yesterday, letting everybody know it's called Dead Format. He's an independent filmmaker, and independent filmmakers need your help to get their films made. He's already raised $18,000 for his new film called Dead Format. 18,185. There's about 2 months to get this one funded on a goal of 60, 30% there. So check out Dead Format by Mike Lombardo. He, of course, directed I'm Dreaming of a White Doomsday, won a lot of independent horror film awards. He's a great guy, great friend. We're going to have him on the show at some point again to promote this a little bit more. But check it out on Indiegogo, Dead Format. This is a passion project for him, straight out of his book. Please don't tap on the glass. It's he talked to us about this years ago. I'm so happy that he's getting it made. I'm really excited for him. So please check it out. The link is in the comments, and that's all I got to say about that. Let's go back on to Hellraiser. Sorry about that, Seth. Just I love Mike Lombardo. He's a great guy.
Yeah, no problem. I only saw, I don't know how many films he's made, but I own I'm Dreaming of White Doomsday, and I like that, so I will contribute to this.
Get your seasonal depression on. We actually did a giveaway in 2018 for I'm Dreaming White Doomsday, and me and Mike got to make videos where I made one, he made one, and Brian Enright edited them together. It was a good time, and Mike's just a great guy, and I'm glad he's he's getting to make this movie. He talked about this one a lot, so I know the ins and outs and what's going to happen in this one. It's gonna be a good one, very bloody, also. So very excited for Mike. I miss that dude. He's awesome. He's a good co-host, unlike you. So anyway, no, I'm
Wow.
just joking. Real quick, I got a couple comments here. Hellraiser 3 is a bad movie. Acting minus Terry Farrell is bad, and I hate Vietnam flashbacks. Okay. That said, it's a pretty fun slasher movie, kind of mirroring almost what you said. And that one of the things is they're late to the party too, because this is 1992, 93. The slasher boom is over. Sequelizing franchises is for the most part over at this point. Even Child's Play barely made it in, and they were done by 91 at that point. So Hellraiser kind of late to the party. Glenn from Death Curse says really started the decent descent into mediocre. Yeah. Although I still had a lot of fun with this one. Um, this was
Yeah.
the first one. So I think I have a problem. And my problem is I like the first of most film series I see, no matter how bad they may be. Because I really like this one. I have a lot of fun with it. And I like you said, I like the lead. I like the story overall of this one. I love the pinheads trapped in the cube, or not the cube, the pillar. JD is the worst, but at the same time, he's kind of fun. At the same, he's a scumbag. So they got a scumbag character in the mix, just like normal. But it doesn't go the same route that it would. And I think if you think about it, they cut out for a second. But Anyway, so let's talk about pros and cons, or the things that work and the things that don't work. And I'd like you to start. What are with the negatives this time, if you don't mind? So what about this one really doesn't work for you?
Well, one is the attempt to make it a slasher film and
Hmm.
to be really focused on the Cenobites, but then it's also it's weird too because it's from the same writer as part two, um, but it sort of disregards some of the rules. Like not only the whole thing with Pinhead making the Cenobites, the whole third act. I think is garbage in this movie. It's fun from like I guess a slasher point of view, if that's what you prefer. But the whole idea of Pinhead, the Hell Priest making the Cenobites, just doesn't make any sense. Even the catalyst, so you have uh, you know Joey, trying to catch her big break on TV. Welcome to Primetime, bitch, and
Yeah.
and she kind of gets an in with this whole thing with this kid being brought into the hospital with a chain still attached. But why are the chains still attached to him? Why? How did this person not get ripped apart, for starters? And two, how did the chains get cut off? Like, what's with that whole situation, with that whole story? Like, there's no explanation for that whatsoever. Um, yeah, and those are some of my biggest gripes. And JP is such a douchebag. I get winded during the sex scenes in this one just because he, can't smoke after. I guess he has to smoke during. Um,
Oh yeah, that's right.
and then
He
I
always get
get,
that cigarette kind of hanging out of his mouth.
yeah, I get it to a certain extent, probably like a asphyxiation type thing, you know. Um, but it, that drove me nuts. But I mean, there are elements of the story that I do like. I'm gonna go back and forth here with the pros and cons, I guess, if you don't
That's
mind,
okay. No, go ahead, do your thing.
because
And I'll
I
just
do like.
comment back and forth with what you say, if that's
Okay,
okay with you.
sure. So I mean, I do like the whole idea of uh, you know Elliot Spencer and the Hell Priest being separated, um, and the fact that the Hell Priest portion of them is trapped in a pillar,
Hmm.
and you have a sort of similar Frank and Julia thing going on where the Hell Priest in the pillar is demanding JP to feed him, pretty much to get him blood, get him souls, so he can free himself. So there is that sort of like mirror there, but I
Hmm.
just think the overall story, it just doesn't really work. I think it's kind of jumbled, it's all over the place, and there's neat ideas in there. Yeah, again, the whole idea of Elliot Spencer and the his darker half being separated, and um, you know, and how that, I guess, makes the Hell Priest much more evil to a certain extent without the human side of them
Hmm.
is interesting. I just don't know if they did the right approach. The whole thing with the uh, Vietnam stuff, like I don't understand why Joey's having like these dreams of Elliot Spencer or how he's doing it. Um, yeah, I don't know. It just didn't. It doesn't really fit with the first two films, and it's like Glenn said. It's sort of like the descent of the series because it just goes into this really kind of cheesy slasher oriented direction as opposed to being more focused on story. Like the first one is definitely story driven and unique, and then the second one is of course bigger, and there's so much more I think they could have explored with it. But yeah, thoughts.
I mean, I pretty much agree with most of what you say. Almost all of it, really. I mean, you've got a lot of good points here, and it's I don't know how to explain. I'm trying to think of a way to counter what you're saying, but I can't. I think when it comes down to this one, like the first two movies are so deep. You
Hmm.
know, there's so much. You even got the you don't get too deep into the mythology of the lament configuration or the dimension that they're from or anything like that. But at the same time, you know it's ancient. You know, and
Hmm.
this it feels kind of flimsy. You know, it and again it falls on you know Pinhead and his weird new ability to bring, like you said earlier, new b- make new Cenobites essentially. Not to mention that the abilities he has while he's massacring all those people in the bar. You know, which fun. I think when it comes down to this is the popcorn Hellraiser. You know, and
Oh
there's
yeah.
going to be a lot of it's like watching. I don't want to say that, but I'm about to say something that might offend you. In a way, like now, I love A Nightmare on Elm Street. It's my favorite horror movie of all time. And watching Hellraiser, it's like the pinnacle of that series to me. And then you got Hellraiser 2, which would be akin to Dream Warriors, where Elm Street
Do it,
4
Ray.
is the popcorn fun Elm Street, and I love it. It's just a great time. But I'm not comparing saying that they're on the same level as far as quality or anything like that. But you know what I mean? Like they're both the fun. Almost, I mean, shit. Hellraiser 3 could be the Headbangers Ball version. You know, where they say the Elm Street 4 is the sorry, I almost spilled my drink.
The
the
MTV.
MTV version of Elm Street. So in a way, you know, I don't know. I think the biggest takeaways from this one, there's actually a few things, but like for me, it's not good. It's, and I know that, but I appreciate the fact that it's got some really cool scenes and some really good ideas that just weren't executed very well. The
Hmm.
whole idea with Elliot Spencer, I like the way he was able to use her dad and the visions and all that shit. That's really cool. But I also like the end of the movie when the lament configuration takes another form into the building, which bleeds over into the next movie, basically.
Hmm.
I really like there's just a few ideas in this one I really like, but overall it is kind of a mess. And it's a movie of scenes. And we see that a lot in horror. And one of the think about one of my favorite scenes in the entire franchise is Pinhead in the church. I almost feel like that's somewhat pointless, but it gives us that great image, and he says that great line, and this is another movie with some great lines. So I don't know, I just have a lot of fun with this one. I think that's my biggest takeaway with this one. I know it's not great. It has some memorable characters, but overall, it's just kind of whack.
Yeah, I mean, and that's where I've come around to on it. Like
Mhm.
because like when I did my initial Hellraiser ranking article, back in like 2019,
It was
I
so
had a
low. I was so upset.
I
I
did
may or
have
may
a
not have
pretty.
cried myself to sleep that night. I'm just saying.
You're welcome. I did have it pretty low, but that's just because like I love Hellraiser. I love the world. I love the mythology,
Mhm.
and this one just by going to that, um,
Yeah, piston
just by
disc.
going in the direction that they did, I had a hard time accepting it, and
Mhm.
I'll be the first to admit I'm a little hypocritical because I do enjoy Bloodlines quite a bit.
Yeah.
And that is still along the mold of being Cenobite centric, but I think there's a lot more going on with that film as far as like story and mythology stuff like that. But I mean, where I've come around on this one is you're absolutely right that it is a fun popcorn movie.
Yeah.
Like Hellraiser 3 is one that you can just put on anytime and just have fun with because it does do those things, especially with the third act. And it's hard to argue against it. I mean, I'm a huge Hellraiser fan, and I know that there's a lot of people who may not necessarily overly love the Hellraiser franchise, but they love Part 3 because Part 3 is fun. It gives them what they want. They want to see more Cenobites.
Right.
They want to see more crazy slasher action stuff. And to me, that's kind of the problem is because Hellraiser, while there's a lot of slashing and gore, a lot of chains and ripping apart, Hellraiser was never really meant to be a slasher franchise. It was just a horror franchise as is. You know what I mean?
Right.
Um, but and I'll admit it is fun. Like now when I do watch it, I do enjoy it. I think especially the first half more. I think the setup is actually pretty good. The setup is intriguing enough, but then it really falls apart in the second half of the movie when,
Yeah.
especially when like um, you get to the Hell on Earth stuff, and the new Cenobites are just really corny. They're kind of cool looking, but really kind of corny. There was the bartender, and then there's the cameraman, and I don't know.
No, I get what you're saying. I get where you're coming from for sure. Because that's one of the things. Every time I watch this, I'm like, God damn, they're dated. Like
Yeah,
one of them is legit made from CDs. I mean, even the
yeah,
cameraman like that technology is way dead too for the most part. It's
yeah.
I do like JD and what's his girlfriend, because they look like an old burnt out married couple that's been married for 50, 60 years. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
I remember Hellraiser 3 on DVD either wasn't in the USA or hard to find back in the early 2000s, so I mailed my BF the DVD release from Canada. I think it was hard to find at one point on DVD.
It was actually, and
I
like
thought
it.
so.
I was able to like they did put it out. Actually, I still have it, but like it wasn't out for long before it seemed like it was discontinued again.
Yeah, yeah, because I got a copy, and there's something I want to talk about. That's kind of just a release standpoint, but I got a copy about 10 years ago, and I think it was I think it was the mid. I don't know when it was actually, but they re-released Hellraiser 2 on DVD in like a white case or something like that. And then shortly after I saw Hellraiser 3 finally, and kind of yes, that one. Yeah, exactly. And I was like, it kind of matched a little bit almost. So, but yeah, before that, I could not find it anywhere. And then suddenly, at one point, it popped up on Netflix. All of them were on Netflix at one point. So,
Well,
but
the thing with uh, it's a right issue really because
mhm,
this is the only one from Paramount.
yeah,
So, and then actually Paramount distributed it, but Dimension Films was involved with this one, but then they were full on uh, with starting with Bloodline. But
yeah, and it's the thing I was going to mention, and I find it odd is every Scarlet box they've released, the Blu-ray set, it's Hellraiser 1, 2, and 3. I'm still confused. I don't know why they just do the first two, but I've always been confused as to why they lump three in there. When really, if you think about it, in my opinion, the story plays out over the first four movies before it goes off and does its own thing in an Inferno. Because the fourth movie, Bloodline, it's a direct sequel to the third movie, but and a prequel.
there is a newer set that they put out. I don't know if it's strictly overseas or not, or if it's also in America. But there's a newer set that is out now, where it's 1 through 4.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Huh. Yeah, because the only way I think I have four on Blu-ray is there was I think It's missing one of the movies. I think it
Yeah,
was
it's missing Deader.
Deader, yeah. So it's because it's got Inferno, it's got Bloodline, it's got Hellseeker, and then Hellworld. Yeah,
Hell,
Deader's the only one missing. Yeah, which I thought was an odd thing also. Um,
yeah,
but
that's a weird issue with Deader is that there's something about the rights to that movie for some reason
mhm.
too. Um, it's hard to get. It's the only one I don't have on Blu-ray right now.
Would you say the humor of the third installment was influenced by Elm Street? And I just
Yes,
made this comparison, so yeah, I think so.
yeah. I mean, Freddy was hugely influential. I think, especially when you're talking about like a killer with personality.
A killer. I like that.
Yeah, it's just the Cenobites aren't like serial killers. They're you know
We need a solid box set in North America. I think the other ones are Region Two. I do have the Scarlet Box. That's Region One or A or whatever the hell it is in North America. I got it in 2017. It is my favorite piece of my collection. It is the first three movies, and it's got Leviathan, the Hellraiser documentary of the making of the first two movies, which is a good doc to watch if you haven't seen it. Um, all right. Anything else you want to discuss before we get to our scores?
um I wish I rewatched this movie beforehand. I
Well, you
didn't know
gotta
if we
watch
were doing this. I didn't know if we were actually
I
doing a
know.
show.
I mean, we were going to do it last week, but shit
Yeah,
just got in the way, and my life is just so busy. I'm not even joking. It's gotten so busy since I've been working at the bank, and there's a few other things going on. Uh, Yay, depression. Anyway, let's get into our scores. Yeah. So first of all, I was mentioning that I did the math like four times on this to see, but the follower score 89%. That's
wow.
high.
It,
So
it, yeah. Well, I mean, it is. I mean, as you said, it's the fun one. It's the popcorn one, and I think
mhm.
a lot of people just enjoy it for that level. I mean,
Well, to compare, there's Hellraiser 2 and there's
yeah,
Hellraiser. So
yeah,
that's not far off.
yeah. I don't know. That's kind of crazy to me, but I mean, because my scores are there's a huge dip
Mhm.
uh between two and three, but
Yeah, I mean, I'm trying. I have them all still on here, but it's hard to read. They're so small.
yeah. I mean, people like what they like, and that's fine.
Hmm.
It's just for me personally, just it. I don't know. I just didn't like
Most
it.
it seems like most of our follower scores are higher than what our scores normally are. Speaking of, here's yours in the new Cenobites. You gave it a
Yeah,
75%. I think that's a
yeah.
pretty good score for this movie, to be honest.
I was actually surprised it was that high. I mean, I think I'm trying to like I don't have my notebook in front of me, but I'm trying to remember because I did these scores like way in advance.
Hmm.
I gave you like all the films all at once. Um, uh, the write-in was sort of like middle of the road because it's not overly terrible. It's just there's some choices I just don't like. Directing wise, I think it's visually interesting and it's pretty well paced, adding to
Hmm.
that popcorn element to it. Um, it's got Christopher Young didn't do the score for it, but it uses quite a bit of his theme still, which is always a plus. I actually do like the score for this film.
Well, don't forget, we got a special song in this one.
Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, this is straight out of like 1987 or something like that. Uh, the Motorhead song Hellraiser was in this movie.
oh right, yep.
Yeah, and it's like I'm like at the end of the movie, I think it's when you finally hear it and you're like, What the fuck, man? They were doing this shit in the early 19 or in the mid the late 80s. I know that I think 1991 they still did and stuff, but Jesus, you missed your calling with these movies. The Man Behind the Mask and all that shit. Uh,
Yeah.
Dream Warriors by Dokken.
Well, I mean, and to me, that's a mistake. I mean, whoever thought that they should take Hellraiser and try to mold it after Elm Street or Friday the 13th is a huge mistake because it just isn't. Um, it's not those. It's not that type of film.
Well, I
Really.
think also this movie could be responsible for how uneven the series is. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
it totally is. I've been saying that for a while because like I fully understand where uh, the direct-to-video films are not well loved amongst people,
Yeah.
and I fully understand that they're not overly great films, right? Like I understand that a lot of them are bad, but I still like them. I still watch them. I still defend them. But at the
It's
same
Inferno.
time, at the same time, though, I feel like in a way, Hellraiser 3 and even further than that, Bloodline sort of spoiled the audience by caving in and going into the Cenobite centric direction as opposed to kind of sticking with the whole idea of focusing on a human protagonist um, who opens the box, you know. But it's hard to argue my point though because it's like I think I mentioned this before. It's like the reason why I rented Hellraiser on VHS when I was a teenager was because of the cover art. Right, you
Yeah.
see that great art
Hmm.
uh, of the Hell Priest holding the box, and it's intriguing. And
Which they reused for this, by the way.
yeah, no, they just changed the background a little bit.
Yeah.
But like that's sort of like the appeal, like the Cenobites are the window dressing. That's how they get people in, and I think it may be off-putting to some people where some of the stories aren't focused on them.
Mm.
So I mean, Hellraiser 3 is I think made for the people who just wanted to see the
Yeah.
Cenobites front and center.
Well, I mean,
Um,
you get that backlash because they slap Doug Bradley on the cover, or Pinhead in general, on the cover of every fucking movie. It's like a shoulder up shot, a bust shot of fucking Doug Bradley. It's like, all right, a Pinhead movie. And by the time when you get to the fifth movie, he's barely. I think he's only in it for maybe a grand total of like 7 or 8 minutes. And that I could see why people would be mad or don't not like the movie. And then when you get
well,
to
I
the
mean,
movie where
it's
he's more in, like I think he's in was it Deader or how one of those two. He's in a lot more, and it's a garbage movie.
yeah. I mean, at the same time though, he, you don't really see a lot of him in the first two films either. I mean, he's in. I'll give you Inferno. There's less screen time, probably by a small margin than the first two. But the character isn't front and center throughout the entire film. Um, the Cenobites just appear here and there
Hmm.
throughout. Like the screen time thing never really bothered me so much. I do wish that there was a little bit more of the Hell Priest in Inferno for sure. But I still enjoy that movie highly, regardless. But I think it's because of the poster art, the marketing, and then because of Hellraiser 3 and 4, I think there is that expectation of they have to be in it a lot, And and to be fair, and to go against my point, I mean, even the newest film, the 2022 film, you see a lot more of the Cenobites throughout the film, right? They have a lot more screen time, and for a lot of people that worked. So, maybe I'm just wrong. It's very possible.
Or maybe we're all simps. Who knows? Pick your poison.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of 50-50, because I know and I appreciate the story of the first movie. And I'm not a huge fan of Inferno, and it's not because of the lack of uh Pinhead or any of the Cenobites. It's I just don't care for it all that much.
Mhm.
I'm not huge on Craig Sheffer either, to be honest. There's something about him. He always looks like he's in a room that smells bad. He's got that look on his face. He's like disgusted all the time. Even when he was in the movie The Program, the football movie, is
Yeah.
Joe Keane, the quarterback. He always looked like he was either smelling farts or something. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm not a big fan of his, and I don't know. The movie kind of drags for me, but we'll get into that coming up. But yeah, no, I appreciate a good story, and you know that, and I appreciate good characters. So it's not that, but at the same time, I do expect to see if Pinhead's on a fucking cover of the movies. I'm gonna expect to see that, and with the first two movies, I feel like, well, you don't even see you. I mean, you see him at the very beginning, and then you like maybe an hour into the movie, you see the Cenobites.
Mhm.
And the second movie, you see them a little bit more, and they're kind of sprinkled throughout. And I guess as a viewer, maybe you feel like you're going to get more. And then this movie comes along though, and it's all about Pinhead. It's all about the Cenobites. And even the fourth movie, in a way, I think the fourth movie is highly underrated. By the way, I really like Bloodline. It's really fucking cool. It bounces through three different timelines. I think it's three, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's just it's fun. It's another fun one. But yeah, I don't know. I got to revisit all the other ones before we watch them. Inferno and Hellseeker, Hellworld, and I got to be honest, I am really dreading rewatching Revelations. So,
Yeah.
because I've only watched that once, and it was like a decade ago. Who knows? Oops, puberty. Who knows? Maybe I love it. No, I don't think I will. I
Well,
am
I
looking
mean,
forward to rewatching Judgment, though. I liked that one when I saw it.
yeah, Judgment was decent. It was gross, but decent.
Mhm.
The thing
Yeah.
is like, okay, so like the first two films, you had a really cool story going on. At least I think so, with
I
Frank and
agree.
Julia.
Yep, I agree.
And then with the fourth film, with Bloodline, you have a really cool kind of story going on about uh, Philip Leberchan and
Mhm.
the evolution of uh, the Lamont Confederation, and the bloodline of the toy maker. And for all its faults, I will say that Bloodline at least has somewhat of a coherent story happening throughout. I would highly recommend reading the original uh, the original script, which is has been released in paperback format, so you can you know order it through a bookstore or whatever. Because it's a much better version of that movie. But even still, I have always enjoyed Bloodline for what it is, and I know that makes me sound hypocritical because I'm so I guess kind of negative on Hellraiser 3, but I think Hellraiser Bloodline at least has more of an interesting story going on, and it really dives deeper into the mythology, whereas Hellraiser 3 just doesn't. I do like the character of Joey Summerskill,
Mhm.
in the actress that played her. Fair enough, but there's nothing really interesting going on with her character. She's just a reporter looking for her big break, and she's got daddy issues and a connection to Elliot Spencer to a certain degree. Um, so I feel like with Hellraiser 3, the best way I could put it is they sacrifice story for style. Does that make any sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I like that actually. Yeah, I agree. I agree. And fun. There's a lot of fun to be had. And
Well,
that's another thing.
there is, and I do want to point out. I mean, yes, I do bitch about this film, but like I do enjoy watching it. You know,
Mhm.
I could put it on and I can watch it,
Yeah,
even when I had it ranked really low. You know, before I
it's
really kind of
definitely
started
one.
remembering.
It's one of the if I'm going to reach for a Hellraiser movie, generally it's the first movie. But
Yeah,
I'll be honest, I really look forward to watching the first four. Where I struggle, as I said, it's been a long time since I've watched the other ones. So this is definitely it's not my comfort movie like Dream Master when it comes to the franchise, but at the same time, it's one that I could throw on and be like, yeah, I'm gonna have a good time watching this.
yeah,
Yeah, CD, the fucking yeah, cameraman, Doc, I think they call him.
yeah,
Wrong, Joey.
yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, that's a lengthy how Seth got to 75. Um, I gave it a 77, a little slightly higher, but I think my points also went a lot to this scene because he's in a house of God and the way he's talking. It's such a great scene. This is one of my favorite scenes of the entire franchise. Um,
Mhm.
And then I think this may be the point where I became a Hellraiser fan, to be honest, because the movie was fine when I watched it when I was 12 or 13, and then this scene just blew me away. I love him taking the pin, from his head and sticking it through his hands. It's such a great scene. I am the way. I love it. I love that scene. But overall, I just really like this one. It's good fun. Good times had by all, except for maybe those who were turned into Cenobites. Uh, I don't know. I like this movie. It's definitely not my favorite. My scores, I think, for the first two were in the 90s, but I think this will ultimately be. I haven't done my ranking yet, so I'm gonna go on a limb and say this will likely be number 5 on my ranking list. I'm gonna say 5.
Five, huh?
I'm thinking. Yeah, let me think for a second because I know one and
Yeah,
two are gonna be one and two.
I was gonna take
2022
a
is gonna
guess.
be probably 3.
Yeah,
No, go ahead. No, guess away. What would number 4 be? I got it in my brain, but
Bloodline.
yeah, I honestly like that one quite a bit, and the more I watch that one, the more I like it because there's first of all Kim Myers is yummy, from Elm Street 2, as we remember. But I'm a big guy that I'm a big guy. I'm a big fan of like knowing the history and origin stories, and we get that in this movie. And I think
And
it's even, huh?
I was gonna
What?
say, and it's got
And what?
Angelique.
Angelique, yes, princess. Yeah, she's fantastic as well. Plus, you get. I mean, the effects are a little outdated, but you got the twins. There's some good-looking Cenobites in this one. But like I know there's some editing problems because I know the studio got in the way and changed the movie from what it could have been. But I do like the finished product. While I would have liked to see, I'd love to see what the original finished product was supposed to be. I do like the way this turned out, and I do like some of the editing choices, how they go, back and forth. They start, in the future and kind of end there in the future. I really like the way that movie flows. So yeah, I'd say that's probably number 4, with number 6 being Judgment. I think. Don't judge me. Do not cast judgment on me when Judgment is number 6. After that, it's a free for all. Probably Inferno. Uh, Inferno is gonna be the only one I rewatch. I mean, of the first 5 because I've seen for so many times. Although just out of pure pleasure, I may watch Bloodline again or
Oh, I'm
Pain.
going to. Whether we do a show next Wednesday or not, I'm gonna rewatch it, and I'm gonna reread the original script. So I'll try to break down some of the differences.
Maybe an article.
Maybe gotta get my ass in gear on that, huh?
Yeah, I gotta get my ass and gear on everything. Anyway, so yeah, I Seth gave it a 75. I gave it a 76 for a grand total of our scores being a 76 overall. So mine doesn't work as well, but you look great in that leather jacket. Just saying.
Is that me on JP? Is that
Yeah,
JP's body?
yeah. What do you think?
Hey, it works. I
I'm on the
smoke.
girl. I don't. I don't know. Her head's looking at him, so I was looking for a picture that would be good for both of us, and this is the best I found. So anyway, 76% for the both of us. Uh, I think that's pretty fair. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that's about fair because it is it's a fun watchable movie, I suppose.
Yeah, I think it is. I think it's like I keep saying, good fun. Good fun is had by all. Uh, looking good. Yeah, yeah, we are looking good, looking hot. I don't know which one's my favorite so far of the ones we've done. I think one of the Child's Play ones was one of my favorites because there's this one which you don't like.
Some butterball.
Where's, yeah, and I didn't do this one here because I was for two. I mean, I was just gonna offend you, and you're on Butterball anyway, and that was not on purpose.
Motherfucker.
And you know what? I'm a Butterball, so it doesn't matter. So
Is that a fat joke?
anyway, so do you have anything else you want to say about the Hellraiser 3 before we? I got to make an important phone call in a minute because I just got the business plan. You know what I'm talking about, right?
No, I think I think I've said my piece on Hellraiser 3. I'm sure there's something. As soon as we're done, I'm gonna probably think of something. I'm like, fuck, I should have said this. Um,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
yeah, I
Think
mean
about it.
it's yeah.
Put your thinking cap on. Hmm. Do the glasses thing where you bite the end of your glasses. Hmm.
Yeah,
Like in Die Hard 3.
yeah. Still
All right.
chewing on your glasses.
Still chewing on your glasses. All right. Well, anyway, that's our show for tonight. We'll try to be back next week for Bloodline. Anybody who watches the Horror Syndicate Discourse, we will be back with that show in June. Nate is doing a play. I can't remember what it is.
Yeah.
I think it's Julius Caesar or something.
Julius Caesar.
Is that right? Yeah. So Nate's. I think he's gonna get stabbed by like 37 dicks or something in a row.
In a row?
Yeah, and
Fucking
then we're gonna come back and hopefully we're gonna talk about some 2024 movies because we've all seen Late Night with the Devil now, which I really enjoyed like all the way through. Not a thing about that movie that I didn't like. It's definitely going to be hard to top for this year for me, and it's the only one from 2024 I've seen. Although, from what it sounds like, 2024 has turned out to be a pretty good year so far for horror. Based on some of the things you've seen, I've heard great things about. I think you saw it. The First Omen was better than most people thought.
Yeah, First Omen I thought was really solid. And then and Abigail is
Abigail,
fucking
yeah.
Abigail is fun. That's a go see in the theater type of movie.
If I ever get time.
Yeah. And then, there's Jesus, can't think. I have a list. I think I've seen like 12.
Immaculate.
I haven't seen
Yeah, you're
Immaculate
way
yet,
ahead
but
of
I've
me.
heard I've heard Immaculate and the First Omen are similar, but the First Omen is superior, based on what I've heard. Um,
One has Sydney Sweeney in it, so she's at the girl right now.
yeah, I noticed that for a couple of good reasons.
She's the tit girl.
Yep.
Rumor has it that she may play Black Cat in the MCU. What do you think about that?
I mean, that would work.
Because, you know, the cleavage.
Right, exactly. Trying to think of the other 2024 horror I've seen. I feel like there's something I'm missing. I really liked Blackout. I know that movie's not going to be for everyone because it is more story and character driven. It's a little bit more slower paced. There is horror scattered throughout, but it's an indie werewolf film from Larry Fessenden, for those who don't know. But I really enjoyed Blackout quite a bit. I accept the fact that it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea. There's a movie that's on Tubi called Lowlifes that I thought was pretty fun. You'll Never Find Me on Shudder. You'll Never Find Me as a movie. It's on Shudder. Not bad.
You'll never find me on Shudder.
Never find me on Shudder. Yeah, that's why I had to clarify. It's not bad considering that it's like one single location and with two actors and it's mostly dialogue, but it kept me engaged. Trying to think, but I've seen some garbage. I've seen some garbage movies of this year too. Hellhounds, terrible. A Most Atrocious Thing. I don't. If you're into intentionally bad movies, it may be for you.
Intentionally bad.
Yeah, sort of like a Velocipaster type, or maybe like Dude Bro Party Massacre type.
Which Dude Bro Party Massacre is a good indie film. Support indie horror like we do. Check out the link in the comments for Mike Lombardo's movie Dead Format. Talking about THS tapes, by the way. Anyway, let's get going. I just posted on the Horror Snickers Facebook page if anybody's seen the movie Blackout. That way, Seth gives it his seal of approval. You got it ranked number 1 so far, don't you?
I do, and that's something I don't expect anyone else to have at number 1. Because, like I said, it's definitely not a movie for everybody, based on sort of like some of the pace and stuff like that. But I really enjoyed it. I really like the story, the characters. I've seen the movie a couple times now. There's like one little thing that happens in the third act that I just don't like the way that it went down. But other than that, I really enjoy it. But again, I'll cautiously recommend it, with the caveat of it's not going to be for everybody, but
yeah, not everything's for everybody. All right. Well, thanks for anyone who joins us tonight. Hit the subscribe button as usual. We should say at the top of the show. Like all that good stuff. Seth, have a great night, and hopefully we'll see you next week for Hellraiser Bloodline. I don't want to wait 2 weeks between shows anymore. It's totally my fault. I've been going through a lot of depression, to be honest with you. So hopefully that'll be rectified in May. Have a great night. We'll see you next week, hopefully. Bye.
Evil Dead.
Don't